I got most of the electronics in the car now. Motor is mounted with the pinion, of course, there, and check the mesh with the spur gear. And I also have a battery inside, and I'm using the middle position right now. I can move the battery forward, but it's a bit hard to get the straps on and off. So I keep it in the mid position. I will see when I start to test drive the car if I really need to move it all the way front or just one step maybe more front. The EEC is mounted here, and you have this capacity that you have to mount, and I found the position there. The on-off switch I just mounted on top of the servo mount, and I got the transponder here on the side, and I got the receiver here, you can see. So it was a pretty tight fit. I expected it to be a bit more space, but that was how I ended up doing it. I know the more professional EEC, what it's called again, XR10 Pro or something, it's a bit smaller, I believe. So you'll get some more space when using the more professional, but much more expensive. It's about $200, I think. But a lot of the racer guys are using that. And now I've not done any soldering yet, so that's next. But now I have all the wires here that are going into the receiver. So they are on the correct side. And here we have the positive and negative power wires. I'm just gonna solder on these angel connectors, as I told you in the previous video, Yeehaw Racing. So I just measure up and check your battery, that your battery have the negative and positive on the correct side. Some batteries you can switch and use them because they have holes that go through the entire battery, so you can just flip over the battery. Some batteries have just connectors on one side, so you must check that you solder the connectors correct. So I'm gonna solder the black here, and I may be gonna solder it so it cannot be put into the positive. That's just a safety option. And of course I solder the red longer than. And after that I'm gonna solder these cables directly onto the motor here, plugs there. Blue in blue, yellow in yellow, and orange in orange. So then you'll end up with wires like something like this, and these for the connectors here. So it looks like alright setup. I don't think you have that many options really. One thing that you have to take note of is before you really mount the engine and the electronics and everything, get in the motor, and this is a sensored motor. So you have this sensor plug there. You can see it, the black thing there. There's a plug going into there, and the cable is going under the motor here. And you can see this tape I have here. That's the wire under this tape, and it goes under the battery. You can see if I can get off the battery now. See, now I took out the battery, and you can see I have tape here, and the cable is in this. You have this, what it's called. Yeah, it's a deepening in the chassis here in the middle. So the cable is lying into that, and I just have the tape to keep it in place. The sensor cable had this plastic tube, so I just cut that off so you can lay it very flat here, so the battery is not pressing onto the sensor cable. So just remember, mount the engine, check the pinion and mesh, and get in the pinion and everything here fixed. But remember to take the sensor wire into the motor and through here, because that would be very hard to fix later maybe. And of course the sensor wire go into the motor, no, into the EC here. So again, everything is ready now. I just now gonna start to solder everything. 3 wires to the motor and 2 to the battery. And then we just have to put the connectors into the receiver. I'm not gonna cut off, the best would be to really cut off some wire here and mount the plugs again so you get exactly the right length you need, so you don't have all this free wire. But I'm just gonna have this free wire here. I'm just gonna twist it around and maybe use a strap on it or something like that to keep it in place. But you could cut off a lot of wire here if you don't need it. Come back later when I finished solder this thing. The car is finished now. I got all the electronics in the car, including battery and the body and everything, and wheels and everything. And I see the weight now is 1,569 grams. 1569 gram. That's with the battery. And the battery is it's not the lightest one, it's the 5000 milliamps battery, and the battery itself weighs in at 207 gram. 207 gram. So I guess this is you are quite near the limit if the limit for 2-wheel drive cars are 1500 grams, because if you have a lighter battery you can easily drop down 50 grams on the battery and then you would down to 1519 grams, so you're very near the limit there. But alright, not that important for me because I'm not a pro racer, I'm just amateur and just doing some racing for fun. But of course it's good to have the weight around 1500 to 1600, a bit there. It should not be on the very heavy side at least. So let's see what we got under the body now. Here the electronics are. I got the battery and the engine, of course, the EC here and the receiver there, and I got the on-off switch there, the capacity there, and the servo here. And it's the small size servo, you see, it's not full size, so I got space for the capacity there. I tried first the battery in the foremost position, but then it was very tight space here. It does fit, but it's a bit fiddling to take on and take off this rubber bands then, so I moved it back to the middle position. I'll just test the car like this, and then later if I need to I can move it a bit more in the front again. The electronic mount plate is carbon fiber. You also can buy that in aluminium or brass, or you have maybe the option of both. The other weight option I added to the car is this brass piece here in the front. That gives some more weight in the front. So I not added a lot of weight, and this is more or less how the car is. We have power now, but I've not bind the receiver to the transmitter yet, and I also have to calibrate the transmitter with the EC, and I have to set up the EC, and I'm gonna set it up I believe like the EC I have in my Team Associate B74.2. four-wheel drive car. So I'll just test with that first and see how it is and adjust it as I would like. The ride height now it's quite high. I think it's about 16 millimeters maybe. And I set it like that for a start because the carpet track we are running on is quite uneven. So I'm gonna have it here on 60 millimeters and adjust it later if I find. And I also not set up the slipper yet, but look in my video for the B74.2 where I set up the slipper also. It's more or less the same procedure here. You just lock the rear tires like this and you give some throttle and you should see the front lift up like this, a few centimeters above the ground. Yeah, of course also have to set up the steering, check the toe, the wheel's toe and the camber, but it looks okay. No, really. So it's not very much else to say, I guess. You can see how I solder on the wires here from the EC, and I have these plugs on here. So, and the wires, the best would of course be to cut them down, but then you have to have the equipment to get on the connection again. So I just use some strips, maybe I call it, to just make like this, and just made the wires around the EC, and the wire for the servo I did also turn under this capacity. But this is not a very pretty wiring really. Just look at some other more pretty wiring examples on the internet. You will find both setup and electronic setup and installations images on the internet. And then we also have this, it's called Velcro, that we use on the body here and on the protection guards on the side. And they are quite small. They came with the kit, but they look to have some strong glue, so I just hope they hold on. And if they does, this will be good. Some pro racers, they are cutting weight everywhere, so they are even dropping some. They don't using full length like the Velcro to cut a few grams here and a few grams there. If this car is too light in the front, I maybe have to add a brass EEC mount plate. I don't hope I have to do that. Or I have to also, first of course, I will try just to move the battery maximum in the fourth position. If it's too heavy in the front, I can move the battery back. It's space to move it to more positions back. But I hope it's a good balance. If I remember right, I did cut the wing here in the rear to one of the lines, to the first line. And I know that for carpet, it's maybe, you should maybe cut it down to the second line. I'm not sure about that. But I know for a dirt setup, you usually have a bit higher wing here in the rear. And carpet, you cut it a bit more down. Yes, so now the car is finished. I just have to do some small adjustments on the electronics, as I said. And then I'm going to do the first test run. So, come back later. Thanks.